hair thinning, hair loss, you're seeing more hair fall in the shower. My name is Iman and I was diagnosed with androgenetic alopecia, and here are 5 things I wish I knew about hair loss before I started losing my hair. So especially if you are a woman, this is specifically targeted at you because we're going to be going through the major causes of hair loss and how to treat it. So number 1 is iron. Now this is one of the major causes of hair loss in women specifically. If your ferritin stores are below 100, then this equals hair starvation. Iron is a non-negotiable foundation for hair growth and hair health. It's needed for cellular metabolism, collagen synthesis, and oxygen delivery to the hair follicle. But specifically women, we lose iron monthly. That's menstruation, postpartum, and we also have gut dysfunction that blocks the absorption of iron. So it's a really complex issue. Get your blood checked. You want to get 100 and above, but if it's not, then these are some things that you really need to understand. So ferritin isn't just storage, it's a safety signal. So if your body thinks you're in scarcity, it is depleting it specifically from your hair. Your hair is a non-vital organ. You need your heart to pump blood, you need your lungs to breathe. Your hair is going to be deprioritized. The worst thing is that if you have heavy periods or maybe a copper IUD, if you've just had a baby, this depletion can crash ferritin levels for years. If you know that you're iron deficient, your doctor has probably prescribed you non-heme iron, which is ferrous sulfate. This is so hard to absorb. Without correcting your gut inflammation first, you're not going to absorb anything. Low iron levels mimic hypothyroid symptoms. This is fatigue, feeling tired all the time, cold intolerance when it's freezing cold and you just can't take the cold, brittle hair, brittle nails, skin issues. This is a really common indicator that you could be suffering from low ferritin. So you want to test your iron levels, but not just your ferritin stores. Ask for these specific tests. You want to test serum iron, TIBC, transferrin saturation, and inflammation markers like CRP. Otherwise, you'll miss completely functional anemia. How do we fix iron? It's so difficult to absorb. So you want to prioritize heme iron. Non-heme iron is things like plants, vegetables, green leafy vegetables, spinach. You want to supplement with heme iron. So that is meat, beef spleen, liver. Those are going to be the best. I know it's not great, but you want to have something like beef organs. Now, beef organs are rich in iron and you want to supplement with vitamin C, but make sure you're picking the right vitamin C. You want whole food vitamin C. Synthetic vitamin C is not going to be as effective. If you are having tea, coffee, milk, dairy, this is all going to block the absorption of iron. So if you are supplementing with iron, trying to do it on an empty stomach, that's going to help increase the absorption. Do not rely on non-heme. Spinach is not enough. I'm sorry to my vegan girlies. You can also try and supplement with iron bisoglycinate, but you also need cofactors because the absorption of iron and the delivery of oxygen requires specific cofactors for it to be absorbed. Vitamin C, as I mentioned, B12 and copper, those are also really important to help increase the absorption of iron. And if your ferritin levels are not rising, test for gut issues. Test for gut inflammation. If you have gut inflammation, you need to fix that first. So having more fermented foods, kefir, all of those things to help increase of your gut biome. I like to take Organize. I've just recently started taking this. It actually tastes okay. I've had beef organ supplements before and they've been absolutely revolting. They make your fart stink, I'm going to be honest with you. And they also just make you stink like this. Like it just permeates up your skin. But this one I'm really enjoying. It has beef organs. It also has collagen and colostrum and sea salt and dates. So the dates make it a lot sweeter, and honey as well. And also Celtic salt. Okay, number 2, guys. This is hormonal imbalances. This is androgen dominance, PCOS, estrogen drop. So I suffer from PCOS. It triggers my hair loss. Scalp is a hormonal interface, almost a hormonal symptom, not a primary issue. Remember, DHT is not just a male hormone. Women with insulin resistance, so aka you might have PCOS, can produce excess DHT, and we know DHT binds to the hair follicles and miniaturizes the hair. If you have insulin resistance, this means when you have carbs, your blood sugar level spikes, and that disrupts the hormones affecting your body and the receptors in the hair follicles, because your hair follicles have receptors. And if that gets disrupted, it can go into the shedding phase and it can disrupt the hair growth cycle. When you have PCOS, you have high androgens and high insulin plus low ovulation. This combination shrinks follicles over time. Why my hair loss was a miniaturization across the whole scalp. So if that follows the same pattern as your hair loss, then hormones could be playing a huge factor in your hair loss journey. Estrogen specifically is anti-inflammatory and extends the growth phase of the hair. But if you've just had a baby or you're in the perimenopause phase, this causes the dreaded shed. Now, if you have low progesterone, this means you are very susceptible to stress. You have high cortisol sensitivity. So this means stress is going to be a major factor in your hair loss. And we're going to talk about that later on in this video. Synthetic birth control is very problematic for hair loss and can disrupt the hair growth cycle for months after stopping, especially androgenic pills. There are so many natural alternatives, and I don't want to, put anything out there in terms of like just in case you get pregnant because of me, but there are different ways to help with birth control that doesn't involve taking a synthetic hormone pill that is disrupting your whole body's mechanism. Every woman should be having periods, and if you are stopping your periods from happening, we are created in a specific way. We have biological processes, and if those processes are being disrupted, you are going to have issues like skin or hair issues. Now, you want to stabilize your blood sugar levels. If you are having spikes in your insulin resistance, sometimes I have apple cider vinegar just before I have any carbs. I'm also gluten free, but some people swear by a keto diet. So this is reducing your insulin resistance by completely getting rid of anything that's disrupting that. Remember, hair loss is a symptom, not the root. So track your cycle, know your patterns, and seek hormonal testing if anything aligns. Okay, number 3 is impaired blood flow. Blood flow is the key to hair growth and hair loss. So this is microvascular damage, tension, aging. Blood flow is absolutely everything. If circulation is impaired, your follicles starve, even if your diet is absolutely perfect. Nutrients only work if the blood is getting into the hair follicles. So hair follicles are one of the most metabolically active tissues. That means it requires constant oxygenation. Your hair is dead, but it is rooted and anchored in your scalp, and it receives those nutrients and blood to grow. So scalp tension can cause real stress. And if you look at specifically male pattern hair loss and sometimes female pattern hair loss in that M shape, as the skull expands, you can see the tension restricting the blood flow. Scalp tension is another issue you must address. If your scalp is really tense and it's not very agile, that could be a cause of your hair loss. Our hair is an extension of our nervous system, and if you are constantly in the fight or flight mode, that is going to constrict your capillaries. When you have that restriction, your hair follicles are going to shrink. Most women with diffuse hair thinning have tension in the gallia aponeurotica, which is the connective tissue across the scalp. Also, if you do a lot of jaw clenching for prolonged periods of time, then you are going to build up that tension in your neck, and that could also be restricting blood flow. Oh, hello. Just a little kitty. Kitty, come back! Oh, she's gone. Anyways, someone out there? Bit of Blair Witch Project for you there. It's called the tech neck. That is going to cause a lot of stress and restrict the blood flow. What you can do is do manual manipulation to increase blood flow to the area. So firstly, scalp massages. You've got these, you've got your hands. This really helps to increase the pressure points, and you're applying that pressure in those teeth. So it's causing a lot more stimulation in the scalp. Plus, scalp massages are very, very long. You should be doing at least 30 minutes a day, at least, for 6 months before you start to see any results. There is a scalp massage machine. It's called Hair Guard. I've linked it in the description, but it basically pushes the scalp upwards and it helps to relieve tension that way. So those are the 3 options. You've got free hands, you've got this My Scalp Gua Sha, or you've got the Hair Guard massage machine, and you can just use it while watching TV, doing your chores. Then the other very, 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 very effective way to stimulate blood flow is through microneedling. I recommend my derma roller. It has 2 sizes. You have 1mm, 0.5mm. 1mm is the optimum depth to stimulate that blood flow, increase IGF-1, which is a hair growth factor. Microneedling once a week is going to be a sure way of getting that blood flow going, increasing collagen production. The reason why I say my derma roller is because a lot of the derma rollers on the market use cheap to manufacture metal wheel discs. They're not real needles. So always get one with individual stainless steel needles. These are all going to help increase those those growth factors, IGF-1, nitric oxide, which is imperative for the cells to regenerate. A key tip now is to pair any blood flow tools with topical treatments and serums that stimulate blood flow. So these are circulation activators, specific compounds that activate circulation. So for example, minoxidil is a vasodilator. It activates that circulation. I do not recommend minoxidil. It's a chemical. The long-term side effects are just not worth it. You can use things like rosemary, but make sure you're getting rosemary cineol oil, niacinamide, and I've paired all of these blood flow activators in my Essence Scalp Mist. This has turmeric stem cells, wild olive tree stem cells, niacinamide, rosemary, red clover, everything that you need topically to help boost hair growth. My hair oil also has rosemary cineol on it, as well as sage, peppermint, thyme. These are all going to help activate that circulation and increase the potential of hair growth using the blood flow tools plus this combo treatment. Now, if you're seeing increased pinkness in your scalp when you are microneedling, massaging, this is a really good indicator. This means blood is returning. So use that as a benchmark. So when the scalp has gone red, when you are seeing that, then that is a really good sign. Okay, number 4, guys, this is protein malnutrition. Low intake in protein equals follicle collapse. Hair is built from protein. It is literally the building blocks of hair, specifically sulfur-rich amino acids, yet most women chronically undereat protein, especially under stress or clean diets. So the keratin structure of the hair requires 18 plus amino acids. This includes zinc, sulfur, and biotin, not just more shampoos. There are a lot of keratin treatments out there, but you actually need to eat and consume this keratin for it to have a positive effect on your hair. Protein is needed to activate IGF-1. I talk about IGF-1, but it's a hair growth factor. It helps to convert specific hormones. If you don't have enough protein, enough amino acids, then that iron is not going to be synthesized. This is all crucial for hair. With aging, collagen, elasticin, keratin synthesis decline with age. So the older you get, the more protein you need to be having. If your protein levels are suboptimum, your hair is going to pay the price. I'm sorry to say this, but vegan diets low in those amino acids and iron are a silent cause of diffuse hair thinning in younger women. So the target is 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. Especially in recovery or high stress situations, you need a lot more protein. It's always better to get that 2 grams per kilogram, and always prioritize complete proteins versus incomplete proteins. Supplement with collagen, amino acids, beef organs if needed. I would 100% recommend beef organs. Now do this exercise. Track your protein levels for 3 days. You will see you're probably under your target. This is a good way to understand how much more protein you need to get and reach those levels, and they need to be consistent. High protein breakfast really helps with hormone regulation, so try and pack as much protein in your breakfast as possible. Cereal, oats, those kind of really carby breakfasts are a real detriment to your hormones, and they're going to cause a spike in your blood sugar levels. So you can counteract that by having a really high protein breakfast. You can have eggs, smoked salmon. Just try and pack as much protein as possible. Okay guys, number 5, this is chronic stress and nervous system dysregulation. Like I mentioned, our hair is an extension of our nervous system, and stress isn't just emotional, it literally regulates your hair follicle's energy system through cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and it creates this stem cell dormancy. Now stem cells help our hair follicles to grow, help our cells to regenerate. So when you are constantly stressed, your body doesn't know how to regenerate. It's always in that fight and flight mode. When you are really stressed, it pushes your hair follicles out of the growth phase into the shedding phase. Our stem cells are stress responsive. If our bodies don't feel safe, our hair doesn't grow. It is literally a signal to ourselves. Our body is trying to tell us something, that our body is not safe. When you have nervous system dysregulation from a stress response or a trauma, burnout, this keeps our body in a metabolic freeze, not repair. The vagus nerve is connected to the skin and scalp, so regulation practices like deep breathing, meditation, journaling, grounding, this is going to help with visible hair changes. Now, if you have a really stressful event, maybe a loved one has passed away or you've broken up with your partner, this event will normally show up in your hair about 8 to 12 weeks after that event. And even the fear of hair loss and losing your hair in that process is going to cause you to lose more hair. We really want to focus on sleep hygiene. Sleep is so important. Women need more sleep than men, and the 8-hour sleep recommendation doesn't apply to everyone. Sometimes you might need 9, you might need 10. It really depends on your body and how you feel. Ensuring you're getting enough sunlight in your eyes as soon as you wake up, you're getting movement, and you're having regular meals at set times each day helps to improve your deep sleep ability. And deep sleep is when our cells repair, and that is what we need more of, deep sleep. Always start your morning grounded, whether that's going and putting your bare feet on the grass, on earth, on the sand. This helps to dislodge any negative ions and negative energy in your body. So tools I use, I journal every single morning. I call them morning pages, and this really helps to relieve any of that mental chatter that can sometimes cloud our judgment and make us feel less than. Taking adaptogens is really important as well. So things like licorice root. I have a hormone balancing tea. So this tea is with nettle root, hibiscus, elderberry, currants, and red clover, which all help to balance hormones. But it's that mindful practice of making the tea, grounding yourself in the moment, and drinking a hot drink aids digestion, detoxification. That is really going to help create that anchored ritual to help you de-stress. No screens before bed. Just make sure you are in a really calm environment before bed. Take the time, read, and take time for self-care, because hair care is self-care. So I always like to do my nighttime routine. So that's when I would do microneedling, the scalp mist, maybe I'll do an overnight hair oil treatment. That really just helps you ground you in the moment. Well, there you go. There you guys have it. This was pretty a long video, but I hope it's been really helpful. If you guys have any questions or anything that I've spoken about, let me know in the comments. I've linked all of the products in my description, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.